what are the chances that she could potentially get rearrested this week? And if she does get rearrested this week, what could happen considering she's still on probation?
It's eventually the prosecution that's going to make the determination whether they're going to file charges. And if they do, there could be an arrest or there could be a summons to court. The biggest deal that would happen, though, is that she has a pending felony count of aggravated assault with domestic violence. That is, it's a plea that's held in abeyance, meaning that should she violate her terms of this abeyance, one of them being not to commit any further crime, then that plea could then be entered. It's a felony possible conviction if it's entered. It's a third-degree felony here in Utah, and she could be facing up to 0 to 5 years in prison should that happen. But that would be the disaster for her, is that if there was a charge, not just a charge, but then eventually a conviction, that could violate her plea in abeyance, and she could be found as a guilty felon and possibly going to prison with this underlying case that's been lingering since 2023.
So we understand that the CPS has become involved in this, and I feel like that's probably pretty typical in this latest incident. I'm assuming that CPS would have been involved in the first round, considering there was child abuse charges that were filed against her and dropped. Is the plea in abeyance, does that bring those charges back if she gets rearrested?
Well, it's not surprising if there would be additional CPS involvement, if there was there before. If there's anything that Child Services, or it's called the Department of Child and Family Services here in Utah, if there's one thing that they don't really like is a pattern of cases that are opened up and that are involved with children. But if for any charges that were previously dismissed under double jeopardy, the constitutional requirements, they would not come back again. Notwithstanding that, they would of course be looking to see if there is a pattern of possible issues involved with child care and domestic issues that would need some state involvement.
She has a custody case with her ex-husband, Taylor Paul, and she has a custody case with Dakota that was filed over this past summer in June of 2025. How can these cases impact those custody orders, those any potential custody cases that she has outstanding?
Well, it's very difficult for them to do that unless there's actual charge and there's been an actual arrest. Otherwise, there's allegations and whatnot, but the judges don't give them a whole lot of credence or credibility unless there's actual charge that's in place.
In Utah, is it when somebody files for like a restraining order, let's say Dakota files a restraining order against Taylor or vice versa, is that something that ends up being public record? Is that something that you'd be able to find on the Utah court site?
Yes. So that would be something that would be public. It would be publicly filed. Not all aspects of that is going to be public. For example, the filings and the exhibits and those things, but it would be publicly known if that is filed. That is a public record.
There's no filing in their custody case, and there's so I'm assuming at this point it's probably safe to say that they have not decided to pursue that at this point, it seems.
Correct. It doesn't look like anything's been filed, at least as of yet. Typically, if this was just kind of like a run-of-the-mill misdemeanor domestic case, that's one thing. But she has a heavy thing hanging over her head, and that is a felony conviction, and not for just anything, but for aggravated assault with domestic violence. It's a third-degree felony here in Utah. So disaster would be impending should there be a new conviction of something of a similar nature. The judge would not look kindly upon that. Now, that's a big if. I mean, she is innocent until proven guilty. There has been nothing filed. So all of this is obviously hypothetical. But if she were to be charged, she were to be convicted of a new domestic-related case, assault or otherwise, and then that would get before her judge in the district court that has this third-degree felony hanging over her head, disaster could reign, and that would be being a possible convicted felon, possibly going to prison. So if she was charged with this new offense, she would be, it's up to 180 days in jail on this misdemeanor case, and then that would violate her plea in abeyance agreement with the court. There's a pending third-degree felony that's hanging over her head. That's punishable in prison for at least 0 and up to 5 years in prison. Should she be found guilty, there was a great claim for the children's other parent to come forward and say there's a pattern of behavior here that the court needs to consider when it comes to these child custody orders, and we're going to be asking potentially for full custody. That would be a big issue, and if she's going to be spending quite a bit of time incarcerated, that would be another issue that's going to impact her ability to have custody of her own children. So it grant them tremendous leverage to allow the court to modify custody issues.